Hello. One of the coolest things about the work that I do is that every now and again I get sent some amazing things by some awesome companies. And I have recently been bombarded with a barrage of books. And I'm really excited to talk to you about them. This is Jordan Sorcery's Magic Mailbag, where I go through the coolest things that I've been sent, and we just talk about how awesome they are, essentially, and why I'm really excited about them, and what I plan to do with them. So we're going to get started with a load of RPGs and game books and other cool bits and bobs as well. So let's get started with the first RPG that I'm going to talk about, which is Vaesen. Now, if you're not familiar with Vaesen, this is published by Free League, and it is based on the work of Johan Egerkrans, who I interviewed quite recently. Johan is an absolutely phenomenal artist, and he is inspired by Scandinavian folklore, creates just really wonderful art of all of these weird and strange creatures, and Vaesen is an RPG about encountering them. It's written by Niels Hintz, and obviously inspired by those Johan Egerkrans pieces of artwork. This book is very much about investigating the horrific kind of folkloric monsters that are haunting the mythic North, as they call it. The Scandinavian countries that are like our own, but a little bit different. It's set in the 18th century. It's kind of taking a different flavour of history and bringing to light all of the creatures that live under the bed and in the dark corners of rooms and that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's very investigative led. So it's much more about trying to work out what's happening and trying to work out how to stop it. You can do combat, but it's not necessarily built around sort of classic D&D style combat. The design of these books is genuinely stunning, and my intention is to complete a full review of both the book, the core rule set, and the expansion that I've been sent, which is The City of My Nightmares. And again, it is an absolutely stunning book. Everything in here, I mean, you even get a full newspaper print, which is amazing, and that folds out into a usable map for your players. It is so beautifully constructed. Just look at that. Really fantastic. And yeah, the art inside these books, it is wonderful. You really can't get enough. I can't quite explain the design, the graphic design and the art within here. Everything that Free League does that I've seen has been really beautiful. It just is. And this is another perfect example, because coupled with the Johan Egerkrans art, it really evokes a certain time and a certain place and a certain feeling. So I'm really excited about this. I'm going to be doing a review of these two books. I just need to play some more of the game before I really get my thoughts in order, but I cannot wait. And not only did I get sent Vaesen and City of My Nightmares, the campaign, I was also sent by Johan Egerkrans himself the actual Vaesen art book. Now, this is what inspired the RPG, and it is chock full of simply gorgeous material. There is so much good stuff in here. So, Johan talked about some of his inspirations being from old Games Workshop art. He's always been into GW stuff, and that Paul Bonner was a particular inspiration, as well as John Blanche, and you can absolutely see it in his art when he comes to doing like gnomes and goblins and orcs and that kind of stuff. Anything in that sort of troll-esque family, you can see those hints of Paul Bonner work. It is really beautiful, but obviously it is a style all of his own. And he has been able to bring these creatures to life in just a magnificent fashion. I'm really not surprised that these have been so popular and so successful. It's just something that's a little bit different. It's really characterful, and it is inspiring. There's a lot of amazing stories I think you could tell here, and it is a really interesting way of sort of exploring a different type of folklore that we don't always get to see. And there's also a really neat connection between Vaesen and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, because Graham Davis, who is one of the original designers for WooFrup, has actually worked on a supplement for Vaesen that takes a look at British and lots of different English, Welsh, Scottish and Irish folklore, and really gives you access to a whole host of different creatures and monsters and fairy tales to explore. These art books, which they've got this beautiful linen finish, they are truly stunning. This Dragons book, it has got an introduction by John Blanche, because Johan Egerkrans and John Blanche were good friends, and it is just full of incredible depictions of these classic creatures lots of different styles and sort of flavors of dragon, lots of different fairy tales and legends. It's really, really wonderful stuff. So I am very excited to spend a lot more time with both Vaesen and Dragons, the Johan Egerkrans art books, and with Vaesen and City of My Nightmares, the actual RPG books, because honestly, these are stunning books. I cannot wait to just sit down and pore over them and spend loads more time with them and share my deeper thoughts in a proper review. Another book that I've been sent recently comes from the Lone Wolf series. Now, if you're not familiar with Lone Wolf, this is a game book series that came out initially in 1984, I believe, written by Joe Dever, who was one of Games Workshop's staff members at the time. Him and Gary Chalk put together the original Lone Wolf books, and they tell the stories. It's kind of similar to Fighting Fantasy, and I think it's fair to say at the time they were inspired by the success of the Fighting Fantasy series, that they wanted to tell their own story, though. They created their entire mythological world. There's lots of interesting stuff to that, to Magnamund and the Kai and all of this cool background. But one of the most fascinating things about Lone Wolf is that unlike Fighting Fantasy and other game book series, you actually maintain your character. It is persistent between the different books. So you can go through all of the Lone Wolf series with the same character, or I think the entire Lone Wolf series. I think there's some branching sort of different elements of the series where you go off in different directions and potentially play different characters. But theoretically, you create your Kai character, Lone Wolf, and you choose what their disciplines are and all of that sort of stuff. And then they can progress. If they survive, they can progress into the next story, and you take your abilities and all of your stuff with you as well, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Of course, it is a bit intimidating as well, because we're talking about a 40-year story here, and they've just got around to publishing book 32, Volume 1. This is the big finish for the series. So Joe Dever, who created Lone Wolf and who wrote most of the Lone Wolf series, sadly passed away a number of years ago, but he passed on his notes and his design for the conclusion of the series to his son, Ben Dever, who has been working on these books since. And they have sent me a copy of the final. I'm not gonna break the seal because I love this lovely Lone Wolf paper. They've sent me a copy of the final book in the series, the Volume 1 of Light of the Kai. And I believe that this is going to be where things just absolutely kick off and get really extreme. All of the storylines come to a conclusion. I mean, you can see it is a really lovely... These are the definitive editions. So these hardbacks, they're illustrated. I believe there is some Gary Chalk art in here, some new Gary Chalk art, which is really, really cool, sort of honouring that origin and going back. Yes, there's some Gary Chalk stuff in here, as well as Richard Sampson, who is Nerdgore, who has illustrated a lot of these definitive editions, Francesco Mattioli, and Justin Wyatt as well. So this is a really lovely edition. I really like as well, these definitive ones have like a bestiary at the back and some extra encyclopedia entries as well, which is really nice. And as I've discovered, because I've done a actual live play that's available on my Patreon right now of the first book in the series, Flight from the Dark. I play the first hour or so of that book from its definitive edition, which I was also gifted by the chaps at Lone Wolf. And you actually get 2 separate bookmarks in here, which I find to be essential, because you can bookmark where you are, and then you can also go and bookmark things like the combat resolutions table, so you don't lose your place. I did lose my place because I didn't use the bookmarks, but I was able to find it again and continue without issue. So I really like the double bookmark that you get here. But yeah, really lovely editions. If you want to go and watch that on my Patreon, patreon.com/JordanSorcery, there are other live book actual plays as well. I've got one from the Valiant book, which is the first Dystopian Wars adventure game book, which was written by Jonathan Green. And I've also done one of the Fighting Fantasy books, the Dead of Night, which was written by Jim Bambara and Stephen Hand, the creator of Fury of Dracula and Chainsaw Warrior. So really fun. I'm going to be doing more of those as well. I've got a Sherlock Holmes game book that I'm quite excited about doing, and a Hero Quest game book as well coming soon. So yes, lots of other fun game book related stuff for you to check out over at Patreon if that is your bag. Okay, and now we've got the big finish. This is a load of RPG stuff that I've been sent by Cubicle 7, who I think are awesome. I've done some writing work for Cubicle 7, but they're also just an amazing company who produce, I think, really, really fun and usable RPG books. Of course, I would say that, but I really do believe it's true. They've sent me the VOLL Adventures for IMPERIUM Maledictum, which is one of the adventure books for the 40k RPG, where you're kind of playing at a lower level. This is the kind of stuff you would play if you wanted to be like an inquisitorial retinue, going into hives and sort of exploring it. So not the Wrath and Glory game where you are playing as like Space Marine level characters and it's a lot more sort of big cinematic scale action. This is a little bit more investigative, a little bit lower level. This is where you get to go into hives and into weird, creepy places. You're going to be discovering Gene Stealer cults and Chaos cults and all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, I think these books are really, really lovely and really well put together. They're just extremely readable, but they also provide a lot of information and they're very usable, I find. So there's lots you can take from these to run your adventures and just find out how to like get the best out of the story. So I'm always really impressed by these and I think they look great. But they didn't just send me this 40k book, they also sent me a load of the Old World RPG. Now, if you know me, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of Warhammer the Old World. It is our connection back to the past. It is the Warhammer fantasy world that I love so much, but given a new perspective, a new way of looking at it. I think the battle game is ace, and I've loved seeing the original miniatures back at the table, but I think the role-playing game is also ace, because it's another way to interrogate this different era of Warhammer history. Now, this is where I've also done some writing for Cubicle 7, which I had an absolutely amazing time. Honestly, I would love to talk about it more and find a way to explore some of that sort of, what it's like to go from being a fan of a property to getting the opportunity to help shape a little bit, just a small amount of like new stuff in the world. How do you explore it? I have found it to be absolutely amazing, incredibly rewarding. And one of the things that I've contributed to is in this amazing slipcase. So, these are the core books for Warhammer the Old World RPG, and you get absolutely beautiful. So if you have picked up any of the Woofrup Enemy Within campaign releases from Cubicle 7, you'll know that they've done these amazing slipcases for those. This is a really sturdy big box, and you get these two different hardcover books in here. So you've got the Player's Guide and the Game Master Guide. Now, both are fantastic. With the Player's Guide, you get loads of information for players on how to create characters and how to put everything together, and these books are lovely. Again, just really, really usable, loads of information, loads of really lovely art, really well-written stuff that just is so inspiring. It gives you loads of access to the world, lots of things you can do and explore, and sort of how you can create your characters. I think it's fantastic. So that is the Player's Guide. Where I was able to do a little bit of writing was for the Game Master Guide, to help sort of flesh out some of the bestiary, to contribute a few things to the various creatures and characters who you might see in the world, mostly humans, but yeah, really, really fun. Again, a really lovely edition, love these maps, just fantastic stuff, beautiful art. I am a big, big fan. I certainly don't want to overstress my contributions. I was just one of a great team, and I just contributed a few things to it. But you can see Jordan Sorcery written here right in the writing credits. I'm very excited about that. And forgive me for a little bit of I don't want to be I don't want this to be about me just celebrating myself. I really do think that this book, whether I had anything to do with it or not, I think this book and this game is really, really fun. I think the rule system is great. It's really accessible. It's much more... I don't want to say it's stripped back compared to Woofrup, because there's a lot of different nuance to it. But it's definitely designed for sort of a quicker way to pick up role-playing in the Warhammer world, and it takes advantage of the sort of sense that this is the end of a golden era of the Warhammer world as we begin the slide into the end times. So that's still 200 years out. That's Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay or 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle or any of the earlier editions. This is way before that, but there's just a few people, namely your characters, who are starting to encounter the kind of evil and the kind of darkness that is threatening to re-emerge into the old world, and that is going to cause some real problems over the next couple of centuries. Not only did they send me the amazing core books, but they also sent me a pad of character sheets, and they sent me the dice as well for these are the Duchy of Talabek dice, which is the sort of main setting for at least the starting point of the game. You can set it anywhere in the old world that you fancy. And then they also sent me a load of decks of cards. Now these are all absolutely fantastic. So I've opened a copy of the Allies and Antagonists, which has got a load of different. It basically allows you to have a reference card for all of the different creatures or allies or in between folks who you might encounter during an adventure. But then there's also a deck of spells. There's a deck of prayers and miracles. There's a deck of weapons and armor, and there's a deck of wounds and conditions. So these all just allow you to have on hand much readier reference to all of the special rules or the special stuff that you might encounter or be carrying. Not essential, but just beneficial if you're playing in person at the table and want to be able to hand out stuff and have real quick access to those rules and to just remember what you've got. So this is a whole clutch of just incredible stuff that I'm really super excited about. I've been playing some of the old world RPG. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I wrote the introductory adventure for the starter set, which I had a blast putting together, and I have absolutely loved playing it for lots of different folks. Honestly, one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had. Just really fantastic. I don't want to, again, I don't want to stress. I'm just excited about it, guys. This is dream come true stuff. To be able to write something for Warhammer, the RPG, it is a really fantastic opportunity, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'd like to think that I've done pretty well with it. So hopefully, if you check it out, see what you think, and let me know. I would love to hear your reviews, your feedback on that stuff, because I had a great time putting it together, and I've had a great time playing it and talking about it. So that's what I put to you. But all of this cool stuff, I'm really excited to use. One thing that you guys will be even more excited about is the fact that I've got a sealed copy of this slipcase with the Games Master Guide and the Player's Guide, and I'm giving it away for free at patreon.com/JordanSorcery. It is totally free to enter. You just need to sign up to become a member of my Patreon. There is a free tier, so you do not need to pay if you don't want to. You can go along. You just have to answer a simple question, and you will be put into the draw for your own copy of Warhammer, the Old World role-playing game, the special collector's edition that I'll be giving away very, very soon. So, as I say, a bevy of brilliant books. I cannot thank enough Home Guard Publishing for sending me Lone Wolf, Cubicle 7 for sending me Warhammer, the Old World RPG and a load of cool stuff, and the Imperium Maledictum book, VOLL Adventures, and of course, Free League for sending me the Vaesen RPG and City of My Nightmares sourcebook, and Johan Egerkrans as well for sending me his art books, the Dragons and the Vaesen books, which, all of these books have been absolutely beautiful to spend time with. I am amazed at how much cool stuff is in here, and I cannot wait to spend more time. I've just got to find that time because there's a huge amount of reading and a lot of games I really want to play. So I'm just very, very grateful. I hope that it's been interesting to just hear me talking about this kind of stuff and showing off some of this stuff. I'm really super grateful for anything that gets sent to me. I really still can't quite believe that this happens at all. So to have these things like landing on my doorstep, it is very humbling and very exciting. So that is why I make these mailbags. I just want to share a little bit of that excitement, share some of the cool stuff that I've been sent, and to thank the people who have sent it to me. So, like I say, thank you to everyone. Thank you for watching as well. Will I be back with another mailbag in the future? Potentially. We'll see. We'll see if I get sent anything else from any very generous people. But for now, thank you for watching. I'm Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery.